Hey folks, I'm recording this video like this because I'm in a hotel room in California and I had some time to kill before I go and get my flight, and I discovered a Facebook page called Film Your Marxist Professors, and there are a lot of good videos on there. So I thought we'd take a look at a few, and I'll leave a link in the description because I really do recommend that you check this page out. So the first video we're going to check out is from Professor Alana Vehaber, and she is going to tell us about race and gender and how they're social constructs.
On a very foundational level, that what we understand about race and gender in terms of biological differences are completely false, right? That they're a social construct.
What kind of biological differences could she possibly be talking about? I mean, we're not suggesting that the color of our skin, our eyes, and our hair are social constructs, are we?
So there are no biological differences, but we have created, we have given social meaning to biological conditions over time.
So how is it we end up with different appearances if there are no biological differences between the races? And I noticed that she goes into entire races when talking about this. It's not like there aren't biological differences between individuals. What's the difference between me and you? Why do we have different tones of skin, different kinds of hair, different colors of hair, different eye shades? It must be our biological differences as individuals, surely. Can there be average biological differences between the races? Inevitably. So what on earth is she doing?
For various reasons, primarily, white supremacy.
Obviously.
And heteropatriarchy.
What else could it have been?
But that being said, that we might know objectively that there are no biological differences between the races or between the genders in terms of ability or intellect, things of that nature.
Oh, there we go. At least we've finally got to some specifics. There are no biological differences between the races or genders now in ability or intellect. So women are just as strong as men, and white people run just as fast as black people, on average, and so on, and so on, and so on, completely contrary to the observable reality that we live in.
There are these ideas of inferiority that absolutely come into play in our society and that have extraordinarily real and important consequences in our society. And
there we have it. It's about inferiority. Well, I hate to point this out, but some people are more inferior in some respects than others, and are superior in other respects. This is just how nature has created us. It's not a moral judgment. It doesn't make them bad people. It doesn't make them deserving of less rights, or duties, or privileges, or anything of the sort. But unfortunately for our Marxist professors, we have to stare reality in the face. Not all people are the same, which means not all people are equal. But that doesn't mean that people should be treated differently with regards to rights. End of story.
So just to say that while there's no biological differences, there are the thoughts given, and this is called in sociology symbolic interactionalism, and we're not going to really have a lot of time to get into it, but a symbolic interactionalist lens helps you understand that we take meaning from the meanings that are given to things, not necessarily the thing themselves, right?
We take meaning from the meanings that are given to things, but not necessarily from the things themselves. Who gives meaning to the things in the first place for us to extract this meaning if it isn't from the thing itself to begin with?
Right, so while there is no truth that there are while there's truth that there's no biological difference between the races, and other than melatonin, things like that.
So there are biological differences between the races. I'm glad we're finally starting to model reality more accurately than we started. But either way, it's not a moral concern. We know what happens when you grade entire groups of people based on arbitrary characteristics, without regard to their individual abilities. We know that this is immoral. We're not going to go back to a time where we did this. That doesn't mean we have to start denying reality.
There are DNA differences, but not ones that affect one's ability or intellect.
Oh, really? So there are biological differences, but they're politically correct biological differences. How convenient for you.
Things like that. So because there's no biological differences or substantial biological differences.
So now there are biological differences, but they're just not very substantial. Wow, that's even more convenient.
We have, through osmosis in our culture, historically and contemporarily, are thought that these are substantial differences, right?
I don't really care whether they are or are not substantial differences. I don't care if we're talking about pygmies versus the Dutch, the shortest and tallest people in the world. It doesn't make them less human, and it doesn't make one group deserving of more rights than another. Why would you even bring this up? The category of human means they get human rights. It's not very difficult to understand, and it doesn't require very much discrimination on the part of the state. In fact, it's a distinct absence of this discrimination that makes it such a good system. Why are you even talking about this?
Say crime is inherent in one community or another, okay? There are no substantial, no objective truth to that, but
we can see the crime statistics, love, okay? You can say, oh, well, one community definitely doesn't have more crime than another, but we know that they do. I don't think that's because of their race either, because I've seen the crime statistics over time. It seems that when the breakup of the family occurred in the communities that will remain unnamed that you are talking about, that crime rates went through the fucking roof. It seems that young men need their fathers to provide them with a good moral example, to keep them in line. But of course that would require some kind of biological essentialism regarding men and women, and we can't have that now, can we? So instead, now you have to start making up pseudo-scientific theories about race in order to cover up for the fact that your ignorance of the biological reality of men and women is causing a deep problem in certain unnamed communities.
We have it in our heads, and because we have these ideas, there are real life consequences to those ideas.
Damn right they are, and unfortunately they're really, really negative for certain ethnic minority communities, and people like you are not helping.
So I just wanted to establish that right from the beginning. And if you want me to talk more about that, or you want more information about that, I would be really happy to delve more into it with you.
To be fair, we should probably thank this professor for letting us know that the fundamental premise of an entire teaching career is based on pseudoscientific lies. So the next clip is Professor Leslie Bachelder from Portland University explaining that they do have racial preferences in their hiring.
You get two candidates, and they're pretty similar, same set of skills, you must pick the person of color.
Why would you need to do that if there's no biological difference in race?
Why? Because we don't have a level playing field, right? And PSU is really committed to that, right?
Right.
So we have, the Office of Diversity looking over what we're doing while we're doing our hiring, right?
Right. Why wouldn't you have the Office of Diversity overseeing everything you do like an inquisition? Because there's no difference in race. The next clip is Jonelle Robinson from Syracuse University's Department of Geography, talking about how maps are racist. I'm not joking.
Critical cartographers have studied maps for years and years, and they find they're socially constructed, right?
Right. Why wouldn't maps be socially constructed? What is the social construct of a map? Is it not meant to be an accurate representation of a geographical feature? Where's the racism in this? And you know that this is definitely going to be racist.
And expressions of power, that historically maps have been used to colonize and conquer and are primarily created by white men.
The primary purpose of maps is not to colonize and conquer. It is incidental that colonizers and conquerors used maps to navigate around the world. Surely by this logic, almost any tool that a human being uses is a tool of colonization and conquest. You absolute lunatic.
Those who engage in critical cartography are interested to use maps for different purposes.
Well, I'm certainly glad you're not using your maps for colonization and conquest.
To show the alternative viewpoints.
What alternative viewpoints are maps going to give you?
cartographers seek to use maps to tell these different stories of the oppressed, focusing on topics such as social deprivation, poverty, and hunger. Community geography is influenced by radical geographers such as Bill Bungay, and Bill Bungay is one of my heroes.
Maybe I'm not fully informed as to the purpose of a map, but I thought it was to give you as objective information as possible of an area of the terrain. I mean, what is a map actually going to tell you about oppression?
He was a geographer who worked primarily in the 1960s and 70s in the Detroit area with members of the community, mostly youth in the inner city, to produce maps that sought to expose social and racial injustices.
Your interpretation of what is on a map is what's important, not what the map itself is saying. The map itself surely has to be objective. But of course we're dealing with postmodern critical theorists, and there is no such thing as objectivity.
This is one of the maps that students working with Bill Bungay created in the 1970s. And if you can't see the label, it says, "Where commuters run over black children on the Point's downtown track."
So it's not so much a map as it is a data set, is what you mean. And we could pull out data sets for almost anything and then represent them on a map for people to be able to see occurrences that have happened. And I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt and assume that you're not saying that commuters are accidentally running down black children on purpose because of their bias. Are you?
So he used maps to shock and to tell different stories, to tell the story of those who have been oppressed and marginalized in society.
You would think you would have maps for all of these kinds of things, wouldn't you? Where's your maps for Chinese children, or Native American children, or Indian children, or any other kinds of children? You don't have them because you have a particular bias of your own, and that's what you're expressing. This isn't about being critical. This isn't about objectivity. This is about activism. Just come out and say it. The next clip is of a land whale professor from Fresno who has tenure. And because she has tenure, she can say some pretty radical things.
A lot of the agriculture, a lot of the food, that Americans eat is grown there, or around there. And even though a lot of the farmers now are Trump supporters and just fucking stupid, and I'm inspired by several things. Usually my hatred for the man.
I don't actually know what she means by her hatred for the man. Presumably she's not talking about the institution in which she works, where they have tenured her and privileged her above other people who are not tenured. And presumably she's not just talking about men, otherwise she would have said it. But that's the most charitable reading I can give of this.
At times I just say that I can't fucking stand the white heteropatriarchy, and then sometimes I'm sucking a white dick.
White dicks are the tools of the white heteropatriarchy, and sometimes she just can't help herself. That's how they get you.
I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. I'm buying guns. Like
Rhonda's buying guns.
I'm an American. I'm buying guns. The other side is like doing some stupid shit. I'm going to do some stupid shit. I'm tired of like being the bigger person. Literally am usually, but like I'm also just tired of the left being fucking stupid and being like, no, we have to like be gentle. We have to, no, don't be fucking gentle. Okay, cat.
At least you can admit that she is the bigger person, but you're being gentle for your own self-preservation, love, because I don't know whether you've noticed, but when it comes down to the Civil War, you're not going to be storming any trenches. You're going to be getting popped.
Okay, cat, resistance fighters in the 60s and 70s, they didn't kill anyone, but they scared the shit out of people. They would hijack a plane and be like, we're not going to hurt anyone on this plane, but we are going to fucking hijack this plane,
Well, don't worry, love.